Have you ever walked into what seemed like an ordinary situation, only to find yourself in a nightmare? These stories are not just about bad luck. They're about facing something truly sinister when you least expect it. Today, we unravel 3 terrifying true stories that happened during fall. Why did these simple activities, buying some decorations, going on a hike, or exploring an abandoned house, take such dark turns? And what terrifying truths did each encounter reveal? You may want to keep the lights on for this one, as these stories will remind you that true horror can come from the most unexpected places. I've compiled hours of research and personal recounts to bring you these chilling tales. And trust me, you're going to want to hear them all. One of these stories has a twist so sinister, it left me shaken for days after hearing it. Make sure to stay until the end, and don't say I didn't warn you. Story number 1. The Facebook Marketplace Nightmare. What if the hunt for a good deal leads you to a place where something terrible is waiting? It was October 1st, and the air was crisp with that unmistakable autumn breeze. Fall was finally here, and it was my favorite season. My boyfriend Carter and I had just moved in together, and I wanted to surprise him by decorating our new home with Halloween and fall-themed decorations. So, I did what anyone would do. I went online to find some good deals. I stumbled across a listing on Facebook Marketplace that caught my attention. It was a big green plastic container filled with fall decorations for just $20. The profile belonged to a man named Cody, and although the profile was sparse, the only picture was of a hat covering his face. The deal seemed too good to pass up. The address he gave was in a part of town I knew wasn't the best. But the house looked normal enough, so I arranged to pick it up that night. I decided to bring my friend Sally, just to be on the safe side. It was a half-hour drive to Cody's place, and as we got closer, we both felt uneasy. The streets were poorly lit, and the neighborhood had an eerie silence to it. The house was dark except for a couple of dim lights. There were no cars in the driveway. I checked my phone and saw a message from Cody. "When you get here, you can come right in." Sally and I looked at each other, instantly uneasy. As we approached the door, we saw movement. The blinds shifted, like someone was watching us from inside. Sally whispered, "This is weird. Let's just leave." I hesitated, but I really wanted those decorations. I knocked on the door, and after a few moments, it opened slightly. Cody peeked out, just half of his body, and motioned for us to come in. Something about the way he looked, the way he was only halfway visible, set off alarm bells in my head. Inside, the smell hit us immediately. A mix of old musty air and something rotting. Cody's deep voice came from another room. "The container is in here. Come look." I noticed that the container in the middle of the room was not the same color as the one in the photo. It was red and looked like it had been used for something else entirely. I asked him to open it. He smirked. "You're no fun." Sally tugged my arm, and we both backed away toward the door. Cody lifted the lid, and a putrid smell filled the room, worse than before. We didn't wait to see what was inside. We turned and ran for the car. As we drove away, I felt like someone was watching us from the darkened windows. The next day, I told Carter what happened, and he wanted to check it out himself. Against my wishes, he went to the house and knocked on the door. An elderly woman answered, claiming she lived there alone and had no idea who Cody was. But the Facebook messages, the address, everything matched. Who was Cody? And what was in that container? We never found out, but I learned to trust my instincts and to never buy anything from sketchy profiles online again. Near end. Always trust your instincts, especially when something feels off. If a deal seems too good to be true, it might be hiding something much darker. New North Story number 2. The woman on the trail. What would you do if you felt you were being watched, but no one was supposed to be there? It was the middle of October in Asheville, North Carolina. I had recently moved there for a temporary job and was enjoying the opportunity to live on my own for the first time. I loved hiking, and Asheville had no shortage of amazing trails. One Wednesday, I decided to visit DuPont State Forest. It was the perfect day for a hike, cloudy, with the leaves turning brilliant shades of orange and red. I figured it would be quiet since it was a weekday. I parked at the trailhead and set off toward Triple Falls, enjoying the solitude. After about an hour, I reached the falls and took in the view. As I sat on a rock, I noticed something. A woman standing at the edge of the woods, watching me. She had short, gray blonde hair, and her clothes looked out of place, almost like something from another era. I waved, trying to be polite, but she just turned and disappeared into the trees. A strange feeling settled in my stomach, but I shrugged it off and continued my hike. I reached High Falls a while later and took some more photos. Then there she was again, the same woman, standing at a distance, watching me. This time I didn't wave. I looked down at my phone, pretending not to notice her, but I couldn't resist glancing at her, and she was gone. I tried to shake off the unease, but it lingered. I reached the covered bridge, another landmark on the trail, and took a break. When I turned to look back down the trail, I saw her again. She was standing at the edge of the bridge, just staring. Frustrated and unnerved, I decided to confront her. I called out, "Excuse me." But she turned and walked away, quickly, too quickly for someone her age. I decided to head back, my nerves on edge. On my way down, I passed a woman walking her dog. I asked if she'd seen anyone else on the trail, and she said no. We laughed about how strange it was, but inside I felt a growing dread. When I got back to my car, I felt relief. Finally, I was away from that woman. That night, I went on a date and shared the weird story with my date. We laughed about it, but later that night, I woke up to something I never expected. I was half asleep, and I felt a presence. At the foot of my bed stood the woman from the trail. My heart stopped. I screamed, and she turned and walked out of the room. I jumped out of bed, turned on every light, and searched the entire apartment. Nothing. I called my dad, who tried to calm me down, saying it must have been a half-awake hallucination. But 2 days later, I learned that my aunt in Germany had passed away. An aunt I had never met, but had seen in old photos. When I saw her picture on the prayer card, I felt the blood drain from my face. The woman on the trail, the woman at the foot of my bed, was my aunt. There are things beyond our understanding. Sometimes, the line between reality and the supernatural blurs, leaving us with more questions than answers. Story number 3. The abandoned house encounter. What if the thrill of exploring an abandoned house led you to discover something, or someone, you wish you hadn't? It was mid-October, and my friend Carlos and I were in the mood for something adventurous. There was an old, abandoned house in our town, the kind of place everyone knew about, but no one dared to enter. We decided that it was the perfect night to explore it, armed with flashlights and baseball bats, just in case. The house was dark, the lawn overgrown, and the windows boarded up. We snuck around to the back and found the door unlocked. The inside was dusty and cramped, with narrow hallways and small rooms. Carlos and I split up, and as I walked through the hallway, I found a door leading down to the basement. Curiosity got the best of me, and I started down the stairs. Halfway down, I noticed a faint glow coming from below. I turned off my flashlight. 2 candles were lit, casting eerie shadows. In the dim light, I saw a rocking chair, slowly moving. Someone was sitting in it, their back to me. I could see a hand resting on the armrest, and I knew I had to get out of there. I turned and crept back up the stairs, but one step creaked loudly. I froze, and when I looked back, the candles were out. I bolted up the stairs, shut the door, and searched for Carlos. I found him upstairs and whispered, "We need to leave. Now." He could tell by my face that I wasn't joking. As we headed for the back door, we passed the basement door again. This time, there was a silhouette standing in front of it. A man, motionless. We didn't wait to see what he wanted. We ran out of the house and all the way to my car. I backed out and sped away, my heart pounding. In the car, I told Carlos what I had seen, and he just kept repeating, "What the hell?" We never found out who was in that house or why they were there. We didn't go back, and I don't plan on ever finding out. No. Abandoned places can be thrilling to explore, but you never know who or what might still be living there. Some risks just aren't worth taking. Thanks for joining me for 3 disturbing true-fall horror stories. And if these chilling tales kept you up at night, make sure to check out my next video where we explore more eerie, real-life encounters that will leave you questioning what's lurking in the shadows. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to stay updated. And remember, sometimes the scariest things are the ones that happen when you least expect them. See you in the next video if you dare.